Hi, we're here in Barrel, New South Wales for the 2015 Australian National Narrow Gauge Convention. They only hold this convention every 2 years, so we want to make our time count here. We want to see as many layouts as we can, talk to some people, and maybe pick up some tips along the way. Let's get started. I'm over here with Jim Longworth, and Jim, you're also into micro layouts, and this is absolutely a fantastic display for what I think is your favorite activity.
Well, yeah, it is pretty much. It started out, it's a GN15, which is G-scale modelling 15-inch prototype. It started out by me building a whole lot of locomotives from scratch, or kit bashing or butchering, call it what you like.
Kit mingling, I used to like that term. That's nice.
Kit mangling.
Yes.
And they just sat on the shelf, and I thought, well, to display them, I should have a layout.
Yeah.
And where do you put locomotives? In a locomotive depot. And some were steam, some were diesel. So I just started out with a couple of sheets of plain foam, and I thought, well, I'll put the diesels in a new shed and the steam in an old shed, and I can make this look old by using galvanised roofing, wooden beams and posts, ash floor. And the newer shed could be portal frame, I-beam, steel rafters, clip-lock roofing, but then they all got hidden underneath the roofing. So how can you see them? Well, I've started pulling the roof off again, and then I thought, well, what about if it's a railway sort of overcoming that transition from steam to diesel? And this is a new shed it's partially built. And I just made it up as I went along. There was no grand plan, but it's a good size. It's 4 feet by 2 feet, 1200 by 600. It's easily transportable in the back of my car. Weighs nothing because of the polystyrene foam. And well, it's something I can take with me and work on should I need to downsize in the future from the family home to a small condominium. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. You've got an office worker back here kind of keeping track of everything that comes in and out. You got some deliveries going on. And I did, some other shots around here that the viewers can look at, but your locomotives, you have a great, I'd call it almost eclectic collection, but it's absolutely fantastic. And it certainly gives you a lot of interest, I bet, because you get the change all the time.
Very rewarding. And Australia bought locomotives from England. It bought locomotives from the continent. It bought locomotives from America, and it made its own. So Australian railways have quite an eclectic range of design styles in their fleets. A lot of the small details came from American automotive diorama suppliers for trucks in workshops and cars, and by the time you amputate some arms and legs and move them around a bit with a bit of glue and some hobby putty, a coat of paint covers a multitude of sins.
That's right. Well, you've done an absolutely fantastic job with everything you've got here. I really like the Jeep that you've done here. At least that's what we would call it, I think, anyway.
Well, it is an American Jeep. It started out as a cheap plastic kit, but during the Second World War in Asia, in Malaysia, the Australians took the American Jeeps and put meter gauge railway wheels under them to provide cheap, light trains. I'm now grappling with how do I actually get it motorised? That's a challenge for this week.
Well, it's certainly a neat looking. Well, let's move over here and let you talk a little bit about some of the locomotives.
Sure.
Over here now where you've got some of your, I think, work in progress and some of the things you've been doing. Tell us about how you go about selecting the mechanisms and then what you do for putting superstructures on.
Well, I brought these to the exhibition to show the process as it happens rather than just the finished product. And as you can see, some of them are made from very old mechanisms, such as a very old Rivarossi articulated. I've raised the cab, put new details on the boiler top, built from styrene and brass O-scale castings, a new tender for it. In this case, we have a very ancient Fleischmann mechanism, which I've put an entirely new cab on. Your term I liked, the kit mingling, because I've drawn materials from a range of sources. There's a OO scale Triang Dockyard shunter bonnet I chopped the cab off it. There are O scale parts. There are knobs from the scrap box. There are quite a few big pins from my wife's sewing cupboard. In this one, again, a very old mechanism with a piece of electrical conduit as a boiler, and again, bits drawn from all over the shop and put together, and then covered with a coat of paint.
It looks like you've got a regular standard HO diesel locomotive under there. Yeah.
Exactly. The mechanism, I had trouble finding a very short diesel mechanism, but I found one, and a couple of second-hand Triang bonnets, scrap box cab, and yes, kit mingling, where you mingle the sources.
Yes, yeah. I really like that term. I think it was Art Kieran from Model Railroader that kind of initiated that term, but I've always liked it. Sounds nicer than kit bashing.
I think so too.
What about this one?
That started life as another diesel underframe mechanism. The bonnet came from an HO diesel of indeterminate parentage. The back came from an ON3 American flat car wood kit.
Yeah, you can see the stake pockets, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the top, the cabin roof, came from an English Pico brand of short wagon. So mingling, we've got white metal, we've got brass, we've got pins, super glue, and yellow tack, holding it all together.
Well, Jim, you've done an absolutely fantastic job, not only with the display, but you're thinking out of the box and your ability to really make some of these things come to life and have a believability to them. Really, you've done a great job, and we appreciate you sharing it with us.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
You too. Cheerio.
I'm here with Jeff Potter, and Jeff's an expert in micro layouts. The first micro layouts I ever saw were in Canada, and I'm really fascinated with them. And as the argumentative first month of the baby boomers, I was born in April of '46, we all may be looking at going to this kind of layout before too long as we move into assisted living and maybe some smaller spaces. So Jeff got a much better head start on all the rest of us.
Thank you.
Tell us about what you're doing here with the layout.
Okay, yes, Miles, what I do with the micro layouts is basically I'm short of space at home. I've got a young family that requires me to taxi them around a fair bit, and basically I long ago decided through people like Carl Arendt, who has unfortunately died a few years back, but who had a micro layouts website, but through Carl's work and other people, I decided to give micro layouts a try, and I've had a lot of fun constructing small layouts for the last couple of years, to such an extent where I'm not really looking to build a big layout anytime soon. What I've found very good about the micro layouts is that they're cheap to construct, they're light, they're portable for things like taking to exhibitions or train shows. You can generally build them very cheaply, and they don't take up a lot of space. Right. Now, coupled to that, of course, is if you're modelling narrow gauge, or even if you were to do a short line or something like that in HO, you don't need much rolling stock. Yeah. All many locomotives or that sort of thing. So you can do a lot with not a lot of money.
Well, that's what I've really been impressed with, is the fact that you've got what, 5 or 6 switches in here. You can move the cars around. I think you have some switching kind of hidden in the back where you can kind of stage some things. You've got all the features of the big railroad confined here in what is about 2 by 3 feet in American measurements. But it's amazing the operations that you can do here on this small layout.
Yeah, you can actually, I mean, for exhibition purposes, it'll run continuously, so you can talk to people. And it's also good for running in locomotives, etc. But if I want to, I can do a bit of switching. So it's based around, this particular layout is based around the Greenacres TV series.
Oh, cool.
And in Greenacres, you might remember in Greenacres there was the Hoyt Clagwell tractor that Oliver Douglas had, and he'd ride on the tractor. He bought it from Mr. Haney, and it was a lemon. It was a lemon. Now, the Hoyt Clagwell tractor was a fictitious company for the TV series, but I've based this little layout on the fictitious Hoyt Clagwell tractor factory. And I've been able to use a box sort of construction to get a feeling of a very busy urban environment. I've built the various buildings so that they reflect, it's sort of like a factory complex that's grown up over 50 or 100 years, and it's used old buildings from previous owners. And if you look around, there's lots of, apart from industrial signage, which I was able to get a lot of off the net, but it's got a lot of signage that reflects themes in Greenacres. For example, Lisa Douglas in Greenacres could not speak English very well. And of course, so there were references in the signs to her mangling of the English language, shooting stars instead of shooting stars and things like that. There's, if you look around the layout, there's characters from Greenacres. There's Mr. Haney with his truck that he'd turn up with his truck and sell you just about anything. There's Arnold Ziffel, the pig, makes an appearance, and so does Lisa and Oliver Douglas. So, for people who are in the know about the series, and remember, I'm a baby boomer too, and but I watched television through the 60s, Greenacres, Beverly Hillbillies, Petticoat Junction, all those things.
What's amazing, you know, the amazing thing about the micro layouts is that you're able to do everything on here that you would do if you had a huge, large basement. You've got detail parts, you've got operational possibilities. It's all here.
Yeah.
And you didn't stop there. You've got another layout as well.
I've got a couple of layouts, yes.
Let's go around the corner and take a look at them. Jeff, here's your other layout, and tell us about it.
Okay, this micro layout is based in an IKEA flat pack box that you would buy from a furniture store, and it's called an ARPA box. And unfortunately, they've stopped making these recently. Maybe my going on your show will encourage them to start making them again.
Yeah.
But these were fairly inexpensive little timber boxes that you buy as a flat pack and put them together yourself. They're quite flexible for making layouts of different scales and gauges. There are N gauges using them. There were, I've seen HO ones. They're actually very popular. I wanted to see how much railway I could fit in one of these boxes. And the inspiration for this one was, I'm interested in the history of advertising. And on the internet I found a vegetable box label for Deer Valley vegetables in Arizona. And of course I know very little about Arizona, and obviously I know a little bit more because I started to research it. And I've found that there's a lot of vegetable growing around Yuma in Arizona. But this is a fictitious sort of packing house and for vegetables and fruit in that area. And so it uses very tight radius curves. Again, it's good for exhibitions because you can run trains continuously, but it's got a couple of points there, switches that you can use to do a little bit of switching if you like. Again, this is in ON18, which I described earlier as O-scale on N-gauge track. And yeah, I have a lot of fun doing these layouts.
Well,
So-
and the things that you've done on the other two where you had so much detail, this is obviously under construction, but you've got a ton of things that you can add to this. It's going to add another year's worth of time probably before we're going to see this in finished form.
Yeah, very probably. It's actually, this is only about a month's work to get it this far, and you know, you can get a bit of depth in using pictures off the internet. I mean, these are actual hills around Yuma, and so I like to pack the detail in, and I've been buying a few detailed castings at the convention this weekend.
Well, and you and I share the same thing. I really like when you have to do some research and when you can make things, at least if they don't appear exact, at least they have the flavor, they have that atmosphere of the prototype. And
That's
you,
right.
You're doing a great job.
Plausibility is
That's
what we
right.
aim for, and yeah, it's great fun, and I don't ever take it too seriously, and it fits in with my family, you know, situation and being Dad's taxi and
Yep.
all that. So it's
Well,
great.
and my congratulations. I didn't say it when we talked about your first railroad, but you're on the cover and you're the feature article in Railroads Down Under, the Narrow Gauge Down Under magazine here in Australia.
That's right. The April 2015 edition. Great thrill, actually.
Well, we really appreciate you talking to us. Great luck with what you're doing, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Okay. John, Fran, and I have had a great time here at convention. You all have all been absolutely wonderful. And now we're ending it with a tour of this mining facility, and you've done a great job with it. But tell us about what we're seeing today.
Okay, this place is called Joadja, and it's where shale was mined, which was used for kerosene, which was the major lighting fuel at that time, which was in the 1870s, 1880s. It was also used for coal gasification, for gasification for the city gas systems. It was very valuable. It was 130 pounds a tonne, which in present day terms is about $50,000 a tonne. It was mined and refined and all the rest of it, and then taken up this incline to here where a narrow gauge train took it to the main line, which runs from Sydney to Melbourne and connects at Mittagong, which is in the local area. It ran until about 1911. It then closed down, but there was an orchard, and that orchard was still sending fruit to Sydney into the 1920s.
Wow, this place is absolutely amazing. This grade is actually 2 and 1, which means it grows 2 feet up for every foot that it runs. So that's a very, very steep grade that they had to pull up to get the loads up.
Yeah, I mean, it was so valuable that the initial haulage from there was on horse-drawn drays, which only took about a ton a time. So, but it was worth doing it for that time.
Right, and then the narrow gauge line, which was later connecting up there, actually went down to Mittagong, and it passed the convention site where we just were and where we just had the convention. So everything kind of ties together.
It does, and that's what we planned. It was
Yeah.
all the planning for
All
the
the plan,
convention.
yes. Well, listen, let me tell you, you all have done an absolutely fantastic job with the convention. Everybody here in Australia has been absolutely fantastic, and I would suggest that any of our viewers who can come down and be a part of your convention, which is going to be in 2017 where?
In Geelong.
Geelong?
Which is about 40 miles from Melbourne. Melbourne is a world-class city, very, lovely eating, theatre, scenery in the surrounding area. In fact, it reminds me, one of the most scenic areas is where a narrow gauge railway called Puffing Billy is. Many of your viewers would know Puffing Billy, world-class heritage railway. There are lunches and all the rest of it on the train, so there's all that sort of tourist thing that can be done.
Great. Well, we'll hope that any and all of us get a chance to come down and be here in 2017, meet you and all the rest of you. That you've been, like I say, you've been absolutely wonderful. Hope somebody comes and takes advantage of your hospitality. And I can't say thanks enough. Thank you.
Thank you for coming all this way.